homeless people in the greater LA area. It seems like some sort of like the apocalypse is creeping in.
People are richer than they ever have been, but the extremes of inequality are high too. And there's some evidence. Well, here's an example of how these things might work. So imagine that people are getting richer. There's absolutely no doubt about that. But here's
like we got more stuff, even though, like, I'm sure you would agree that
starving. That's one.
Not starving. That's good.
Like obesity is a bigger problem in the world now than
starvation.
Right. That's a big deal. That's a big plus. But here's
in a way, it implies that people are being underserved by their operating systems.
But there's no doubt about that.
And it still infers inequality also.
Oh yes. Well, first of all, there's no doubt that any social system has a tyrannical and arbitrary aspect. I mean, that's an archetypal trait. Any, of course. And even well-functioning systems have a tyrannical aspect. Not mostly, or at least merely, because they require conformity.
Native Americans who you're down with, not Native Americans, Native Canadians. Yeah. They're qua.
Yeah.
Like them guys. Like, how's their social system set up?
Oh, it's a catastrophe.
Go on.
Oh, well, I mean, it's a catastrophe for all sorts of reasons. I mean,
some of it.
Yeah, it is. It's the situation is very catastrophic.
It's
partly because, well, the reserve system was set up in Canada, and it had a possibility of working when there was a possibility that small communities could work economically. But small communities don't work economically anymore. Like if you go through Saskatchewan, for example, a central province in Canada, in the 1960s, there were thousands and thousands of small towns. Mostly Caucasian.
That is because
they're done.
That's capitalism, though. Huh?
No, it's not. It's deeper than that. It's the same problem. Well,
it might be deeper than it, but in its current form, it is capitalism. Because I would agree that what is capitalism a manifestation of? Greed. You could say.
It's the same thing but the same thing has happened all over the world. Like urbanization is taking place at a tremendously rapid rate. It doesn't matter what the culture is or the form of government.
So you think that the politics is happening at a lower level? The phenomenology that's that's significant is a bigger tide, and within it, political systems are just blowing about. But that doesn't mean we should dismantle the ones we have in search of fairer, more just, better ones, particularly if they're empirically not working.
If we can come up with a way to reliably flatten inequality, that would be a good thing. But the empirical evidence suggests, so there's a bunch of things. It suggests, first of all, if you look at the attempts to alleviate inequality over the last 200 years, whether there were left-wing governments in power or right-wing governments in power made absolutely no difference whatsoever to the degree of inequality. The only things that have been reliably demonstrated to flatten out inequality are catastrophes. Wars, revolutions, epidemics. There's one other. War, revolution, epidemics. Well,
it's going to be some kind of horseman.
Now, yeah, that's right. It's another horseman. I can't remember which it is. But the price of radical redistribution seems to be tremendous death. Yeah, and no one has come up with.
Do you think that's because of how power functions? Because, like, you know, in an unequal system, whilst there are many people that are suffering, there are some people that are benefiting. I'm in a tier that benefits from the current economic situation. I drive a nice car. I have a nice house. I go where I want.
Well, let's look at that for a minute. Like, if you think about how that happened in your life, I bet I can tell you how it happened.
Go on.
Well, I mean, this isn't a personal account. But
it better be.
You had success.
Otherwise, I'm not interested.
Had success in one dimension, right? High success. But because you were successful in that dimension, all sorts of opportunities came your way. Like, my suspicions are that where you're sitting now, you have more opportunities than you can deal with. Is that correct?
Yeah,
right.
There are opportunities.
Right, exactly. Well, see, this is part of what seems to drive inequality, is that as you get successful, the opportunities that come your way start to multiply, and they don't multiply linearly, they multiply exponentially. And so when you start moving up, faster and faster and faster and faster. And then you'll hit a point where you have so many opportunities that you don't even know what to do with them. And so it's a nonlinear improvement. But the downside of that is, and you might have had periods in your life that were like this too, where let's say you start to get depressed, and then you start to drink because you're depressed. And then you start to isolate yourself because you're drinking and you're depressed. And because you're drunk and depressed, then your friends start to abandon you. And then you lose your job. It's like you're not going downhill in a straight line. You're going downhill faster and faster and faster till you fall off a cliff. And that seems to be how the world works. It's like there's a center point. It's unstable. Things improve, then they improve exponentially. And things fall, and then they fall off exponentially. And that seems to be what's driving